It's Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
Big story out of New York City today was the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. This was a federal court trial, which is the big leagues, and Combs was fortunate enough to basically win, be acquitted on some of the more serious charges, but convicted nonetheless in federal court. And late today, the judge in the case denied Combs any bail, so he will have to remain in a Brooklyn jail cell, facing now 2 criminal charges, for which he could spend some significant time in jail. He has been in jail since last September. With us is attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Attorney Rosenthal, welcome to Nightside. How are you?
Thanks, Dan. How are you? I'm doing great.
Doing great. Now, I know that you practice in federal court, in several federal court districts. When I say it's the big leagues, it's tough to get acquittals in federal court because they generally try to have all their ducks in a row. Are you surprised at the verdict today? We'll get to the specifics of the case, but I just want to ask you that overarching question. Are you surprised that sort of kind of got a compromise verdict today?
A little bit. Anytime the feds lose, you kind of scratch your head and you sort of wonder what went wrong. On the bigger cases like this, on the more high-profile cases, maybe there's a little more impetus for them to overreach a bit, and maybe that's what happened here. When I'm eyeballing this case and I'm looking at it just from the outset when they start off with the raids and the warrants, and I'm thinking, okay, we've got a guy who they're accusing of a whole lot of trash. They're accusing this guy of everything under the sun. That's fine, but hiring prostitutes, sex assault, spousal domestic abuse, or intimate partner violence. These types of things are crimes, but they're usually not federal crimes. Right. And so you've got to have a trigger. You got to have something that crosses the threshold that makes them federal. That's going to be business enterprises. That's going to be interstate commerce. And I kept waiting to see that develop. I kept waiting to see those types of connections kind of come to fruition, and they just never did. So, in some ways I am and I'm not, yeah.
Counsel, he did move, if I'm not mistaken, some of the participants, whether they were all cooperating voluntarily or under some level of duress, moved them across state lines. He flew people from different point A to point B. And I guess that is technically the hook that got him indicted in federal court.
Under the Mann Act, yes, which that's ultimately what he got convicted of. And anytime you move somebody from one state to another for an illegal sexual purpose, regardless of gender, you're going to be guilty of a Mann Act violation. And that's ultimately what they got him on. But they didn't get him on the racketeering. They didn't get him on the RICO. And those were some of the bigger charges that they were hoping for. So they got some of the lower hanging stuff. And anybody who thinks that this is a win for Diddy Combs, in a year, they set his sentencing in October. They're in no hurry to do this, and he's waiting in jail for this. In a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, when he's still in jail, this is not going to feel like that big of a victory for him.
Right. And by the way, let's make it very clear. The Mann Act is M-A-N-N, not named after
Correct.
a particular gender, but named after a former congressman from Illinois whose last name was Mann.
Okay.
M-A-N-N.
Yeah, they're targeting all of us, right? It's the man. Yeah. So.
No, I just want to clarify that. Okay, it's just for sure. Yeah. You're pretty sure. I guess in theory, he faces up to 20 years. He's not going to get 20 years here.
I don't think he gets. Well, I don't think he gets 20. I don't think he gets 2. we'll see where they hit him on the federal sentencing guidelines.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big fight. Yeah.
Well, the other question is he's already served 9 months or 10 months. He was arrested last September. So whatever he gets sentenced, I assume that his incarceration, pretrial incarceration, is going to offset whatever that sentence is.
He'll definitely get credit for the time that he has spent in. And for those who don't know, kind of talking about the federal sentencing, let's talk about the federal sentencing guidelines for a minute.
Sure.
Do you want the long story or the short story for everybody? I know you know it, Dan, but
we're coming up on a break. We'll take the abbreviated version, and then we can amplify on it after the break if you like. Go right ahead.
Sure thing. The federal sentencing guidelines are a matrix, and it's it's like an Excel spreadsheet that everybody's crime in federal court, they're going to put you into a box somewhere on that matrix, and that's going to dictate a range of punishment, usually in months. And it's going to be the level of severity of the crime. It's going to be your criminal history that gets factored into it. If you are an organizer of the criminal enterprise, you get more points. If you cooperate with the feds, you get less points. And the judge determines where you fit in that, and that's your sentence.
Yeah. And his there's a lot of video. He's got videotape in this case, pretty brutal videotape. And there's probably videotapes that the jurors saw that you and I will never see. But the videotape of him throwing the woman on the ground in the hotel while he's wearing a bath towel around his waist and kicking her, that has to come in as a factor, I think.
That's going to come in as relevant conduct. That's one of the things when lawyers are fighting in federal court, most of the time what they're fighting over are the federal sentencing guidelines, and they're debating things like relevant conduct. And relevant conduct doesn't necessarily have to be a conviction. And that's a really contentious point because we have due process rights. We have the right to confront our accusers. We have the right to have allegations proven against us beyond a reasonable doubt. And to some degree, not to kind of put it way out there, can you bring in my fourth grade dental records and enhance my sentence for that? Well, in theory, you kind of could. So that's where a lot of the lawyering happens. That's where the fight's going to go from here.
But in this case, I mean that videotape of him pursuing the woman by the elevator who was trying to leave, who then he decided that it would be a good idea to toss her to the ground and then drag her, kick her, and then drag her. And he's a big guy, compared to her. There's no criminal conduct for which there's a conviction there, but this is plain as day. And I don't know how the judge can ignore that or minimize that. And it's something that the judge can absolutely take into consideration. Exactly to your point, Dan, there's no conviction necessarily for that, but that doesn't mean that the judge can't hit him for it. Right, and I believe that took place several years ago. So I'm sure that the statute of limitations has long since transpired on that. If people are saying, well, why didn't they charge him with that? And that would not have been a federal crime either way. We will take a break. My guest is attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. We're talking about the Sean Diddy case. There was a verdict that was announced today, number one, and the judge decided post-verdict, after a break in court, that Sean Diddy Combs would remain in jail. Obviously, that can be appealed, and I'm sure that his lawyers will be working on an appeal of that. But his sentencing date is October 3rd, so he's going to spend at least a year in jail and then see what the sentence is. For those of you who aren't familiar with the case, this is pretty freaky stuff, Jeremy and I have kind of tiptoed around the substance of the crimes that have been alleged, and in many cases the crimes for which he was acquitted. But the underlying fact pattern is pretty interesting. We'll, again, try to deal with it as best we can. Your comments, your questions would be appreciated. 617-254-1030, 617-931-1030. My name's Dan Ray. This is Nightside on a Wednesday night. Feels like a Friday to me because I'm off for the rest of the week. Coming back right after this brief commercial break.
You're on Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
My guest is attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Before we go to phone calls, Counselor, how tough a case was this to defend? I mean, this involved some pretty bizarre behavior. These were sex parties that went on for days. They were called freak-offs. And it involved, according to the indictment, Sean Diddy Combs spending money on male prostitutes to have sex with some of his girlfriends. It was, in terms of weird, I get an 11 off the chart on a scale of 0 to 10. Nobody should be questioning other people's private behavior, but this was pretty weird.
A trial is, in my mind, it's an emotional battlefield. We, in America, in the world, we make our decision first, and then we make the facts to fit it. I wish it was the other way around. This is why AI will never take my job, because I might be able to fast talk a jury out of convicting somebody who was on a police chase and wound up in a swimming pool, with their car. And AI listens to facts, but people don't. The big challenge in defending this case is the tidal wave of negative towards P. Diddy, if he's your client. And he is thoroughly unlikable. He has committed atrocity after atrocity. And the state, this case is one giant mudsling against him. Yeah. And it's very hard to get a jury to relate to that. It's very hard to get a jury to understand that. And if you wanted to convict somebody who is that loathsome, if you want to convict him of anything, you could do it, or that's the worry of his lawyers. And so it's always hard to redirect juries to facts, and it's hard to get that counterbalance to say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is too much, right? At some point, this is just too aggressive. That's a hard argument to make.
Too aggressive, Counselor, from the perspective of whom? The prosecution?
From the government, and to say, listen, an analogy that you can use in a trial is you can say, look, at some point you got a bad kid in the store and you see mom or dad disciplining him. Okay, maybe the kid opened a candy bar in the middle of the store or did something bad. Yeah. Okay, but at some point you beat the kid too hard, right? At some point, enough. Yeah, gotcha. And so I'm a big believer in the scales of justice, and I really do think that juries go back there when they deliberate, and they will always kind of come up with the right balance, or what in their mind is the right balance, and the punishment has to fit the crime. If I were to suggest, and we have an old, my practice is, we're not in the country, but we have an old probate judge who is as bonkers as he could be, and he had the perfect analogy for this. He says, if you made drinking alcohol a crime, punishable by death, and then you caught somebody on video with alcohol in their breath, with the can in their hand, and then you fingerprint that and you just prove it 8 ways till Sunday, a jury will acquit them because they do not agree that death is appropriate for that. Right. If it was a $5 fine, they're going to convict them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So at some point, it's got to balance out.
So there's a modicum, what you're saying, you have faith in the jury system, and there's a modicum of of common sense amongst any 12 Americans. All right, let's go to some phone calls, see what people have to say. We'll start it off with Joe is in Belmont, Massachusetts. Joe, you're on with attorney Jeremy Rosenthal talking about the Sean Diddy Combs case.
Dan, I just called to wish you a happy birthday, July 8th, and God bless you and all your loved ones.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. That's very kind of you. But do you have a comment on Sean Diddy Combs?
I just want to tell you, Jesus loves you, Dan. Bye.
Thank you very much, Joe. Have a great night. Well, I guess that's a happy birthday wish.
Happy birthday coming up here. Yeah.
July 8th. Let me tell you, me and Nelson Rockefeller. Of course, Rockefeller had all the money. Let me go to Carol in Randolph. Hey, Carol, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Dan. Thanks for taking my call.
You're ready. You're welcome, and you're on with Attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. We're talking about the Sean Diddy Combs case. Your comments.
My comment is, I wasn't surprised that he got off because, RICO is a really hard case to prove, and one guy with a RICO case didn't see it. But I am just so happy that he got convicted at least 2 charges. To expose the debauchery and what these people do. I raised 2 boys that are in their 30s now when this rap music was coming up and with all the derogatory terms and everything, and it disturbed me, but I was like, okay, open-minded to your music, but the lifestyle and all of this, I'm like, thank God my kids got through it and didn't fall into this. I'm just...
Yeah, well, I think what you're referring to, there were a lot of misogynistic lyrics.
Yes.
And he in that videotape sort of became the personification of that misogynistic action when he beat that woman.
Yeah, I'm just glad that he's exposed for what he is. And these women were young and they wanted to make a career, and he abused them. Yeah, everybody knows that. But is a criminal? The whole industry should be. They're like the next thing to the porn industry. My God, it's.
Both of which are protected by our First Amendment in many respects.
I know they are. I know they are, but let him spend. I don't know what he's going to be sentenced to. I hope it's at least a few years. But you can't have young kids glorifying these rap stars. And
okay, let me get Jeremy Attorney Rosenthal's reaction. Jeremy, this is, I think, someone who would have been a pretty fair juror on this case. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think that she is pretty typical of, I think, where most people land on this topic.
What she was alluding to is kind of the whole point of the prosecution, which is that it's the structure, right? It's the organized. We're going to pay people. We're going to move people. We're going to have these parties. The prosecution tried to put more form, if you will, or to give a shape to P. Diddy and his entities or his organization, and essentially label them the mafia, right?
Well, look at what Hugh Hefner did.
Carol, let the attorney finish his comment. Then I want to hear what I want you to respond to what Counsel Rosenthal says.
Yeah, Carol, don't give me your address because I'll send you my bill, and you don't want that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, but and to your point, Carol, I think you make a very valid point, which is that the government here, what they tried to do was they tried to essentially label what P. Diddy did as an organization, as an entity, as sort of a movement. Now, obviously, you can't label an entire industry that way, and I'm sure there are wonderful artists and wonderful musicians that perform in that genre. P. Diddy's obviously not one of them, but I think that's sort of what the government's point was that this is that it is beyond a bad man. It is a bad man who is using other people to do bad things and to hurt people. And that was sort of where this case broke. Yes, he's going to face justice for the people that he hurt and a lot of what he did, but he's not going to be punished for things that I think are a lot more controversial. Is he this arch criminal, or is he just a jerk? I don't know.
Yeah,
well, definitely a jerk. No, go ahead, Carol. Final word. Go ahead.
Well, no, I hope he does some time for it, and I'm just thankful that there are people out there that understand that this is not normal. And, you know, you can idolize singers or rap stars or anything, but don't idolize the lifestyle. Don't ever buy into that as a kid.
Well said, Carol. It sounds to me like you raised two good sons. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you, Dan. Love talking to you.
Right back at you. We'll take a break. Here's the news at the bottom of the hour. My guest is attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, talking about the Sean Diddy Combs case, which today resulted in 2 convictions. He faced 5 indictments, 2 convictions, essentially Mann Act divisions, convictions dealing with 2 separate women, as I understand it. I did not follow this case with any much close. It was really one of those cases that I didn't have a lot of interest. I know a lot of people felt there were lurid aspects of it, which there certainly were. I get it. I was more interested in the Karen Reed case, frankly. We will be back with attorney Rosenthal and some good callers. We have 3 really good callers lined up, including attorney Harvey Silverglate from Cambridge, my friend, and someone who I respect immensely. We got Steve in Cambridge, one of our top callers, and Alex from Millis, who's always excellent. We'll be back on Nightside. Ladies, I hope some of you will follow Carol's example and give us a call. 617-254-1030, 617-931-1030.
Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
Thank you, Madison. Appreciate it. We are talking with attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, veteran defense attorney, talking about the Sean Diddy Combs convictions and acquittal that came back today. He was convicted on 2 of 5 counts in this pretty bizarre trial in New York federal court. And we are going to get right to the calls, and going to go to Harvey Silverglate, who is a well known to this program, an excellent attorney, a civil libertarian. Harvey, say hi to Counselor Rosenthal, Jeremy Rosenthal.
Good evening, Counselor Rosenthal.
Good morning. Good evening. How are you?
Fine. I have my comment about the case is as follows. My comment is about the RICO statute. That statute was enacted by Congress in order to fight the mafia, you'll recall.
Mm-hmm.
And it has since been used and abused to the point where now it was brought in a case of a guy who was oversexed and who abused some of the people who were working for him or with him.
Mm-hmm.
That is an improper use of a RICO statute. And I was delighted that at the jury verdict that they convicted him for the sexual abuse, but they acquitted him of the racketeering. It was a perfect verdict, showing again the genius of the jury system. The jurors got it exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Counselor Rosenthal would necessarily disagree with you, Harvey. And for the record, you were never involved in any of the Sean Diddy Combs freak-offs. Let's make that very clear, okay?
Right. No, I would not. I would expect Counselor Rosenthal to agree with me.
I do. I think that, the jury, where the government overreached, where they tried to kind of make something that wasn't there, and they tried to grab at it. The more questions one of the things, one of the kind of the comments, Dan, the more, in my mind, the more decisions you give to a jury, the more they're going to split like this. Sometimes we sort of get in this mindset that these juries run away, right? We see the $1 billion verdict, or we see, some other crazy jury thing, and we think, oh, all jurors are crazy, and many are, okay, right? It's still a very scary proposition, but I'm a big believer in juries splitting the baby. Being a juror is not easy. They want to they want to make everybody they want everybody to win, and they want everybody to not lose, and they're afraid, I think, in my mind, of coming back out and upsetting somebody with their verdict. And so what they do is they really grasp for that middle ground. So the more questions you put to a jury, the more charges you throw out to a jury, the more likely it is, in my mind, that you get to a split decision. I've heard one lawyer argument. I've heard both defense lawyers and prosecutors make this argument. They say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, whatever you decide, come back and look us in the eye. The right decision is the one that you can look at me at, and you can look at those guys at, and you can look everybody in the eye when you come back and you give your verdict. Now, I don't know that gets you anywhere as a defense lawyer, but I do think that this jury, again, and if there's a surprise to that, it's that it was a month or 5 week long trial, and a 12 or 13 hour deliberation with 5 charges is quick. That's a quick verdict for given everything that they've seen. But yeah, no, I'm with him. I think they nailed it.
All right, Harvey, thank you as always for your comments. Appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk soon. Happy 4th of July, Harvey. We'll celebrate the Constitution.
My favorite document.
Absolutely, no question. Mine as well. Thanks, Harvey. Talk to you soon. All right, let's keep rolling here. We are going to go next to Alex in Millis. Alex, you are next on Nightside. Welcome. You're on with attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, Counselor. Hi, Dan. I have a couple of comments.
I'm a counselor too, Alex. You don't shortchange me here. Go ahead. I'm only kidding you.
Oh, okay. First off, it seemed like this trial was weak compared to the Karen Reed trial as far as, like coverage and whatever. So I don't know why that was. And
wait a second. This trial got a lot of coverage. His arrest was videotaped live. It was almost, I had to add O.J. Simpson sense to it.
Right, but there were no like fans for this guy, because even in court, to show you what type of person Sean Diddy Combs is, he had no supporters in court other than his family. And the other thing is, do you think that the defense tried to use the race card, saying here's a successful black person, and the government's trying to take him down? How much that played into it? And also, I would say that he got off easy, although he's going to serve some time, but, he was facing some serious charges.
Okay, do you have a question in there, Alex, that I can divine?
Well, actually, would he have gotten, the other charges found guilty on, had, if it were a different jury? I don't know.
No one will ever know that. That's an impossible question. I think that Counsel Rosenthal can speak for himself, but I think that he feels this jury got it right, and hope that every jury gets it right. Jeremy?
Yeah. And first off, they only call us counselor when they're really pissed off at us. Okay, so there's that. And I tell people I didn't go to counseling school. I went to law school. I don't have a dental practice on the side. I don't do anything like that. But you did bring up an interesting point. When it comes to the federal government and prosecuting and talking about the race card, I've been to criminal defense seminars where the topic is defending rappers or defending people in the hip hop culture, because they do get targeted. They get targeted more. And is that race? I don't know. I don't. There's a lawyer. The person who was lecturing was a criminal defense lawyer. Does federal practice in Atlanta, and he. If you asked him, he would definitely tell you that he felt like the African American community, like that, the hip hop community. He would tell you that they definitely get targeted more. Now, when you take that in front of a jury, to me, you have to be extremely careful with it, because you've always got to make sure as a trial lawyer that you are on par with the jury, that you're not out in front of them and that you're not lagging too far behind them, but that you're in step with them, because that argument can turn off a lot of people. Even if you believe it, there's arguments that feel good and there's arguments that win. And another thing I'll tell you too, because Karen Reed too, that's in Massachusetts, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much: I got more Diddy coverage in North Texas than I did Karen Reed. So I think that's probably a function of that being in your neck of the woods.
Geography wins on that one. Alex, appreciate the call. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Happy 4th of July, Alex.
Thank you. You also.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Steve in Cambridge comes up on the other side. We got also Rick up in Merrimack, back on Nightside with my guest, Jeremy Rosenthal. It sounds to me like my audience feels this is a fairly even conclusion. I think they're in agreement with you. I'm not going to say counselor, Jeremy. Okay. No, counselor. We use counselor up here as a sign as an absolute sign of respect. I know the judges can use it when they're about to admonish. I get that
as a battering ram. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Back on Nightside. If you want to try to get in, 617-931-1030 or 617-254-1030. We will change topics at the top of the hour and talk about an event that happened in 1979. It was a horrific fire that killed Marines. Never should have happened near Mount Fuji in Japan, 1979. Huge story that basically was eclipsed a few days later by the hostage taking at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. We'll talk with the author, Chaz Henry, who's a reporter, a journalist, who has written a book that has received some really positive reviews. Back after this on Nightside.
Nightside with Dan Ray on WBZ, Boston's News Radio.
Okay, we have 3 callers. Let's see if we can get people in here quickly. Let me start off with Steve in Cambridge. Steve, normally I give you a lot of time. I'm going to
Jeremy, 2 quick questions,
Sure.
And then I'd like to make a quick comment.
Sure.
Number 1, you didn't answer the question. Did the defense use race, bring up race as a defense or as a sticking point in the trial?
What kind of you're a lawyer, man? What kind of lawyer are you, putting me on the spot like that?
No,
listen,
Steve is not a lawyer. Steve is not a lawyer.
Well, you speak as one. I love it. It's good.
He's a smart guy.
Thank you.
Very smart
I take
guy.
that as a compliment.
Yeah, and by the way, there was no reporting that suggested that race was a factor in this case. I watched. I wasn't in the court. Obviously federal court. I'm in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
There's no feed, but all the reporting I saw, Steve, there was no reference to race beyond the fact that he's a rapper and
Dan, I'll tell you this: there's using race, and then there's using race. And to answer the question, there's using race, and then there's using race. It's one way to go in and argue it, and just flat out play the race card.
Yep.
The other way that you see that's a lot more common is that it's insinuated, that you use what you might call code words, that you make some veiled arguments that sort of dip the toe in the water, if you will, and that sort of may resonate with some people and not necessarily others. So using the race card is by degree.
Was such done in this case?
I'm not aware that it was in any measurable way.
My second question is, I get the feeling that the Mann Act is kind of a nebulous, vague, catch-all type of crime, and somewhat like the RICO Act. Would you agree?
Don't drive a prostitute over a state line, Steve.
Right. Well, it is. No, you're right. It is a vague act because it specifically talks about taking people from one state to another for immoral sexual acts. Okay, and that's pretty vague, right? And is taking the girls, taking a woman to Atlantic City to do whatever? Is that we were going to go and do, get into whatever that?
Jeremy, my quick comment is,
yes.
The state was trying him because they were using him as a scapegoat for what is considered the depravity of this whole scene. And anybody who gets mixed up in this scene, be they male or female, pretty much knows what he or she is getting into. So I think P. Diddy was kind of a scapegoat. This is outside the purview of the law. This is a social ill.
All right,
it
fair
is
enough.
outside the purpose of the law.
Fair enough, Steve. You got it in. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Happy
you,
Fourth, Steve.
And you, gentlemen.
All right. Let me go to Dennis in Arizona. Dennis, whereabouts in Arizona are you calling from?
I'm in Avondale, Arizona.
Avondale. Okay, you're on with Jeremy Rosenthal. What's your comment or question? We got a couple of minutes. Go right ahead.
Oh, you know what? I guess I called in early. I'm on the wrong show.
You're on. So you want to? Okay, fair enough. I'll hold you over into the next into the next hour. Not
Okay.
a problem. Not a problem, Dennis.
My apologies.
Not at all. No apologies necessary. Thank you very much, Rick in Merrimack. Rick, go right ahead.
Sugar, I'd like to apologize to myself, but he did a good job of it. I don't even know what you guys are talking about, but anyways.
Well, thanks for calling in, Rick. I appreciate the fact that you call in, whether you knew what we were talking about or not. Thanks again. Appreciate the call.
For the record, Dan, I don't either. So we're good.
No. Well, I apologize. Dennis has called in for this next guest, which is fine. That sometimes happens. Thank you very much. And Dennis, you stay there. You'll be first up on the other side with the guest. Jeremy, appreciate your time. It's always difficult to report or react to a federal case because, again, no cameras, no microphones were allowed, which
right.
The Berger rule from many, many years ago stays in effect even after Chief Justice Berger's passing. But maybe someday we'll have an opportunity to play and actually listen to what happens. But I thank you, sir. I thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining us tonight.
I have to drop this one thing because I've been sitting on this line that I've not been able to deliver this whole time.
Go right ahead.
So the defense in this case batted .400. That's the Carl Yastrzemski line. There you go.
Well, 400 gets you in the Hall of Fame. I'm not.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When you think about it, yeah. They
2 out of 5. Yeah.
Well, actually, when you think about it, they hit 600 technically.
You're right. The government hit 400.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah.
So,
good call. Good
600, and that's getting close to Ted Williams territory. I appreciate it very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Jeremy, is there any way we can any book you've recently written or anything you'd like to plug here?
You can follow me at Briefing Attorney on YouTube or Instagram, and you can see my handiwork at TexasDefenseFirm.com, where we have a reasonable doubt for a reasonable fee.
That's one of the. I've never heard that slogan before, but that, particularly when you're a criminal defense lawyer, it works perfectly. Jeremy, appreciate the time. We'll do it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good night.